Hello, I'm Shelley Kiblinger, your superintendent, and I wanted to share with you some important information regarding the waiver and how it's affecting our district. Today's presentation is entitled Moving Forward with No Child Left Behind. What does the waiver mean for us in USD 308? We've learned a number of things from No Child Left Behind thus far. We have learned that setting high standards yields results, even in times of reduced funding. Since 2007, when our funding began to be cut, we have seen gains in reading and gains in math. And we have learned that all students can perform at high levels. Student proficiency in subgroups in our district has increased since 2007. We've gained 16 percentage points in reading for third grade African American students, and we've had a 6 percentage point gain for reading of third grade Hispanic students. And in the district as a whole, we've gained 2 percentage points in district math for free and reduced. Those points are points that are closing the achievement gap in our district. So we've learned that we can close achievement gaps and even reduce them in some cases. But we've also learned some things from No Child Left Behind that we don't want to repeat. We've learned that measuring success based solely on targets for minimum proficiency attainment didn't work for Kansas students and for students in Hutchinson. There's been a temptation to focus on some students rather than all students. Curriculum may be narrowly focused to items on the test. And higher order thinking skills weren't assessed, so they weren't necessarily stressed in the curriculum. And all schools in Kansas were destined to be labeled as failing schools sooner or later under the old No Child Left Behind. But now today we have received the waiver from No Child Left Behind. It has several major principles. The first is that students have to be ready for college and career. Kansas has adopted the Common Core state standards to meet this. Teacher accountability is another piece, and it states that teacher evaluation must include a tie to student performance growth. Now, we don't know exactly what that will look like yet in Kansas. Kansas began piloting the KEEP teacher evaluation instrument several years ago, and they will continue to do that this year and through 13-14. But by 2014-15, our district will either need to adopt the KEEP model as it has evolved, or our district will have to submit another model to be approved by Kansas State Department of Education. Stay tuned because we don't know quite what that will look like at this point. The third principle of the No Child Left Behind waiver is that the state must have a system for differentiated recognition, accountability, and support for our schools. That means that we are accountable for continuous improvement or sustained excellence. Some positives about the No Child Left Behind waiver. There are no more districts or schools on improvement. Subgroups will no longer weigh into any calculation. However, 308 will still address subgroups because that's important to us. We need to know how our students are performing to make sure that students don't fall through the cracks. We will require students to be college and career ready by implementing the Common Core state standards. The state standards will now be more process-based, and they will focus on higher order thinking and problem solving. There will be new state assessments. The Smarter Balance assessments will measure the new Common Core state standards. However, those tests will not be ready until 2014-15. In the meantime, we will continue to give the old Kansas assessments, even though we know they will no longer be a valid measure of the curriculum that we are teaching beginning this year. Under the waiver, there will be 4 different ways that schools can identify themselves as improving schools. We can either show academic performance according to a performance index, which I will explain in a minute, academic growth based on the mean student growth for the building compared to that of the state, and we would need to be in the upper half to show growth in this way. Gap reduction, which would compare our district's lowest 30% of students in a building to the state benchmark of the 70th percentile. And the last way that we can demonstrate improvement is to reduce the number of non-proficient students. Basically, we would need to reduce the number of students non-proficient on the state assessments by 50% over the next 6 years. And schools must do at least one of the above. The performance index is very exciting. The performance index works much like a grade point average, where exemplary is worth a certain number of points, exceeds standards, think of that as a B, meets standards like a C, approaching standard, and academic warning. And you can see each level is given a certain number of points. You then take the number of students times those point categories to arrive at total points. You add them together, you divide by the total number of students to get you the API. Again, it works very much like a grade point average. The exciting thing about the API is that it actually gives us credit for raising students from academic warning to approaching standards. Even if they don't meet proficient, we get credit for improving those students. We also get credit as a school when students who are proficient move to the upper levels of the scale to meet standards, when they move to exceed or to exemplary. That improves our score. Under accountability, there are two ways that a school can be targeted for improvement, although they will not be listed as not making improvement as they have been in the past. The state will identify schools that they feel need extra support and assistance. Priority schools are the lowest 5% of Title I buildings based on the performance index. There will be 33 schools in the state in reading and 33 schools identified in math. This is based on a 4-year average. And the number in the class doesn't matter. That means there will be many little schools in the state that suddenly are on the radar. So you'll see a number of schools that have never been targeted for improvement before suddenly appearing on the state's list. This is a good thing for us because all schools will be treated equally. Focus schools will be the lowest 10% of Title I schools based on achievement gap. The lowest 30% of the school's students will be compared to the state benchmark. There will be 66 schools identified in the state, and this will combine the reading and math performance for the school as a single score. This is based on a 2-year average, and again, the number of students taking the assessment doesn't matter. Now, I will tell you, I am very pleased we do not have any schools in our district listed as priority schools. We do have 2 schools been identified as focus schools, and we will look forward to getting assistance from the state as we work on improvement in those 2 buildings. Now, the exciting thing about the waiver is that this list is fixed for the next 3 years, meaning there is no way that you can get on the list if you're not already on the list as of today, and there is no way to get off of the list if you're already on it. Therefore, we are not going to focus on Kansas assessment scores for the next few years. Even though we will still take the tests, we know that what's really important is spending our time and our energy on implementing the new curriculum of the Common Core state standards, and that's what we're going to do. So we will focus on our strategic plan. The strategic plan of the district emphasizes 21st century skills for our students. The Common Core state standards will help us achieve that goal even faster. We will focus on teaching for deep understanding, focus on higher order thinking skills, and focus on problem solving. We will focus on the initiatives that are in our operational plan, implementing the Common Core state standards, the art and science of teaching, MTSS, and positive behavior supports for all students, K through 12. And we will continue to focus on our professional learning communities, as we know that that is a vehicle to give our teachers the support they need to implement the art and science of teaching, Common Core, and MTSS. And we will focus on student learning related to the Common Core state standards. Now, our Board of Education has always relied on a key indicator report to see how our students are performing. In the past, there has been a lot of emphasis on the Kansas assessments. However, the assessments will continue to test the old curriculum and not the new curriculum that we will be working on beginning this year. Therefore, we will focus instead on indicators that we believe are a measure of student achievement on the Common Core. Principals will be discussing key indicators with staff over the next few weeks. So how does the Common Core State Standards impact you? Common Core State Standards is about process as well as content, and it's being implemented now. This means teachers of all subjects must stress higher order questioning and problem solving in classes, and they must teach for a deeper understanding of the content. The more critical thinking that students are asked to do, the easier it will be for them to think in this way. Every teacher must help with this, whether you're a teacher of math or language arts, or a teacher of music, or visual arts, or welding. Everyone can ask the students to solve real-world problems and think critically about their subject matter. Now, at this point, I would encourage you to turn to your shoulder partner and have a 2-minute conversation about how what I've said so far will impact your teaching or learning in our district this year. What kind of support will you have as a teacher as you transition to the Common Core State Standards? I'm sure that's an important question you're asking yourself. As always, our district will continue to provide professional development, and you have the support of the instructional coaches and the curriculum and instructional specialists. They're always available to answer your questions. And this year, you will be getting more feedback from principals than ever before. We are requiring principals to do classroom walkthroughs for all teachers in the spirit of giving you support and feedback on how you're doing implementing the Common Core standards as well as the art and science of teaching. And the PLCs will provide you with collaboration time so that you can bounce ideas off of other teachers as well as look at the data that tells you how your students are doing. How does this all fit together? The Common Core State Standards are represented really by these pink squares. The most important thing for you as a teacher this year as you figure out Common Core is to ask yourself, what are the kids supposed to be learning right now? Can you answer that question? And can the students answer that question? How can you tell? I would suggest that you ask them periodically and see if they can tell you what the learning goal is. If they can't, then you know you need to spend more time stressing with them what they're supposed to be learning as they do each activity. The Art and Science of Teaching and Design Question 1 stresses this, along with rubrics to help the students understand what they're supposed to be learning and how they can take it to a deeper level. And how do I know that they're learning it? You need to check for understanding frequently. And the art and science will help you with this as well as you examine how do you take it deeper and how do you ask yourself and have your students demonstrate their learning. And then finally, what do I do if kids aren't learning it? And what do I do if they are? That's where multiple tiered systems of support will be helpful to you, as we can actually target instruction to meet the unique needs of the learner, whether they are falling behind or whether they need to have some enrichment opportunities. As you do this, you will continue to have the support of your professional learning communities to collaborate with your fellow teachers to work on this, but you see, it really does all fit together. So our biggest challenges this year are letting go of the old curriculum and not worrying about the old state assessments. Think of all the time that we will capture for instruction because we aren't busy worrying about and reviewing for and practicing for state assessments for the next few years. Teach only the Common Core state standards and teach it with fidelity. Again, your instructional coaches and instructional specialists can help you with this. And use the time that we gain to teach deeper because we aren't doing all of that test prep and practice. Focus on the collaboration time during PLCs. Use that time for student learning and student data and for your own understanding of Common Core state standards. And last but not least, these are big changes, and we will have to explain the new accountability and Common Core state standards to our community. so that they will understand as well. You are our greatest spokesperson in getting that word out to parents and to other members of our community. I thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing the great things that you're going to do in the classroom this year with Common Core. Thank you.